Here, no. All right, guys, we're doing this. We're hopping over to Facebook. Oh, shoot. Is it already going? It's live. We're already live. Okay. I hope that it's recording. I love it. Let me go on Facebook. Let's just do a quick test to make sure all the equipment is working well. Thanks for your patience, guys. Hold on. No, it's not going. Oh, here we are. We're live. Here we go. Awesome. We did it, guys. We're here. I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh. So listen, everyone. I wanted to jump here with some really great friends of mine, friends of a lifetime I met out here in Utah, sharing their story and leaving the Mormon church. I feel like so many people are awakening right now, and whether it's spiritually, politically, or so forth. And I'm really, really proud of them. And what can I say? Last night, I am still exhausted. Thank you so much, everyone. I can't keep up with the messages. I was told that as soon as that happens, and I'm really, really honored. And thank you. Thank you for all your messages. There's a lot of you. I'm going to reach out to each and every one of you. So thank you for your support, because it's people like you that really kind of get the ball rolling on how other people feel and how you're just kind of sick and tired of fighting, and let's just kind of move forward, and I'm excited about that. So if you're not aware, I actually have a channel on YouTube called the Share and the Red Baron, the Share and the Red Baron Show, and I've been doing interviews with people for a while, and I'm focusing on ex-Mormons for a specific reason. We are actually going to, in the near future, gather many of them. We're talking thousands of them from all over the country in the International Peace Garden out here in Utah. And we'll get to that. So please follow the story and share with your friends, because we want you to be a part of it. So thank you for that introduction. Hi, guys. I miss you. I can't wait to be in person again. Awesome. Well, let's start with my dear friend, Shelley. Shelley, I always like to start with people when I interview them. Are you a believer in signs? And if so, what happened and why?
Yeah, I decided not to share the exact same stories in case somebody goes on to see, or not just somebody, but a group of souls go on to see the Share and the Red Baron show on YouTube and see my other stories. So I will say yes, I do believe in signs, because I mean, practically books have fallen off the shelf, into my hands with just the perfect messages by the best authors and about their spiritual journeys, and it's been perfect, and I've been led to exactly the right people, the right jobs to meet these people. It's how many of you can say that you can see the synchronicities in life like that? And so I do believe in that. And I do want to say that last time I read the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi, and I'm not going to read the whole thing this time, but I would say I choose to be an instrument of peace. And where there has been hatred, let me sow love. And I would also say the Hawaiian term of ho'oponopono, which is, it means I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And this is for anyone that may see this that doesn't get the real point and the real heartfelt message, that may they see those of us that are on here speaking our truth and being raw and open and vulnerable, so that others may follow. We are the wave that raises the boats. And so everyone
That's you.
have lifted me. I've been the boat. I'm also a wave. Everyone's a wave. Everyone's a boat, right?
I love how you put that. That was beautiful, because it's happening and people are feeling it all over the world. And I'm just so proud of you. And you two right here are starting a movement where other people can speak up and, not just be so angry all the time, but realize you went through this. People are realizing they went through it to be here, right now, in this these biblical times. So thank you for that, Shelley. Is there anything in particular that you can think of as well, like something that just happened and you're like, I can't make this stuff up? You know what I mean about a sign or a synchronicity?
Gosh, just meeting you, I couldn't make this stuff up. You and Gabby walked in at the Ishmael Perez event in November, which turned out to be a really small, intimate gathering. So beautiful. And
Oh,
little did I know that I'd have sisters and brothers like Robert, like Bob for life, Sean.
yes. I love that. I feel the same way. I knew it as soon. Oh, that Gabby. I adore her. Oh, and let's bless her flight for tomorrow for the eclipse. She deserves a nice vacation, right? I felt the same way for sure. For sure. I mean, I found all of you around the couch. And when she walked in, it was like we walked in right together. I'm like, ooh, I like you, girl. You're like half and half. And like I love people with fire like both of you. And then the kindness though. So we just get to that point where, and those are my people. So here you are. I love you. So
so I decided
yeah.
I decided this time, instead of talking about abuses, with saying who they were, that were family members, this time I'm going to say loved ones or friends and family, and not say any names because, or how they're related to me, because I sent this out to friends that have never been Mormon or are former Mormons. And I sent it to a few relatives that had left the church. I mean, they're a little bit distant relatives, but one of them didn't say anything and said something about, was sorry that there wasn't compassion for what I'd gone through or something. I said, oh, I didn't expect any compassion, but I feel like maybe because a couple of the souls in my life that had hurt me in really powerful ways, well, they're no longer here. So am I speaking ill of the dead or something? So I'm going to be pretty vague this time, but I can still talk about situations and
Yeah.
this
This is your show, girl. You're here to spread the good juju so everyone else can rise up and say enough. Let's just create a peaceful revolution, so to speak, instead of fighting all the time.
Exactly.
I think, yeah. So where would you like to start in sharing?
I can talk this time about a loved one that asked me probably 10 or 12 years ago to go for a ride in the car with them because they wanted to have me give them a ride somewhere, and they wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with me. And I jumped at the possibility because this is a close relative, and I was like, oh, this is great. I've always wanted to have a real heart-to-heart soul because I was no longer active in the Mormon church for quite a while. And I was like, wow, this is great. And what it ended up being was a bait and switch, because once we got,
they're trying to convert you again or something.
yes, once we got,
I'm sorry.
to me and says, I just want to know why you're not praying. I want you to pray about your decision, and I want you to come back. Like, you've got to pray about this. And my response was, don't you think I didn't? Like, I agonized over my decision to leave because I was just that programmed. I was so devout and so believing that it took years, literally. I remember Bob talking about the toe dipping, and I mentioned that last time too, like just testing the waters. How does it feel? I've never been one to plunge in, although doing these interviews, I feel like I'm plunging in on the deep end because I really do love my privacy. And souls come,
I get that. Yeah.
and Reiki and things from word of mouth. And so I'm in my Reiki room right now.
I love it. I love it. You look stunning.
Oh, thank you.
Beautiful.
Well, my niece gave me this backdrop, so she's a shaman. And
we'll make some history. You just recognized her, so that's nice because we're making history.
She's going to be at our event on April 20th. You'll finally meet her.
I can't wait.
The plant family. So I'm so excited.
Oh, wow. Oh, I'm so excited. You know what's funny is I didn't even realize we were planning it on my magic number day, 420. It didn't even hit me until I think you said something or someone said something. And
medicine at 4:20 on 4:20 too, because our event will be done at 4. So.
Oh, I got my new CBD babies there. They've been working like a charm. I couldn't even fall asleep after last night live. Not to turn this or anything, but yeah, those helped me a lot.
The
And
energies are so potent right now, leading up to tomorrow's eclipse. I mean, stuff's going down. Is there anything you want to share about that, or Robert even? Because
yes, I'd like to introduce you to our friend Bob Price.
Indeed. I don't have anything specific with the solar eclipse. I'm in observation mode, and it's interesting just because I'm on this organic path. Things just naturally, I think we touched on a little earlier, it's like the synchronicity aspect of life now, once you start awakening, things present themselves to me. So I don't seek them out as much as I am aware of when they present themselves to me. And so whatever happens on the eclipse day will present itself to me, whether it's personal, whether it's in a group of people, whether what have you. The universe has a way of pulling us into the right place at the right time.
Oh,
So that's
I love
mine.
what you said. Awesome. Because I mean, if people just type in questions online, you can't deny it. It's everywhere. I mean, the National Guard and news people are talking about the National Guard coming and this and that.
There's a bunch of ritual, and I don't know if anybody on your channels have talked about all the rituals that are occurring on the same day behind the scenes, with rockets being shot at the moon or these types of things by NASA. And it's just, you look at all this and I'm like, I don't even know what they're trying to accomplish out there, because you can't stop it. You can't change what's coming. You can't affect it. All you can do is try and take whoever is not going to be able to make it, and if they're on that far on the fence, they'll probably just fall back, but that's the only thing they've got going for them at this point, whoever's got that interest. But yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of funny business and a bunch of ritual happening, and I'm just kind of like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to work and still pay my bills. What else am I supposed to do?
Right. So let me ask you, speaking of biblical, and you're just a source of knowledge and I love it. So can you possibly get into, in biblical terms, what this is lining up to and comparing it to scripture? Because it's been prophesied about, and I just thought that you would be great at explaining this to the audience.
I appreciate that. This particular one has so many synchronicities in regards to reference of things that are said in the scripture, in regards to, there was a prophecy that Jesus had made in regards to, like the days of Jonah and the whale. And so there's all of these synchronicities with towns of Nineveh that this thing is crossing across.
Yes, there's how many of them?
I don't know, like 7 towns. And what's crazy is the central focus point, I think, has something to do. I can't remember exactly, just because I've been living my little old 3D life over here, but these things do hit my social media, and I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. I missed that. But it's fascinating that it does not seem apocalyptic, in the sense that, to me, I'm not on the timeline where the whole earth caves in and sucks me up. I'm on the timeline where great things happen for humanity. And so
I'm with you, Bob. I'm with you.
So
let's do this.
I look at this stuff and I'm like, okay, sure, there may be the National Guard all lined up, and there may be whatever, but in a moment's notice, we've got all our multidimensional selves are going to trip onto the timeline that we want to be on, and so those transitions take place from day to day, night to night, as we fall asleep and wake up. And it's just interesting that there are a lot of synchronicities with Nineveh and 7 towns, and
is it the focal point called the rapture or something, or what?
There's something there. I can't remember exactly what that was, but I'm just like, wow, there's a lot
of.
You
can't make this stuff up.
I know,
right?
I know. So I mean, I went within, and I've got a little bit of for me, I'm not too worried about it. But
yeah, me neither.
At the end of the day, I'm just like, this is actually kind of cool. Popcorn time. Let's do it.
Oh, really? Oh, goody. Yeah. I'm with you. Let's do this.
Anyway, so as far as getting into the actual scripture, I don't have that. I honestly, I've kind of pulled away from a lot of that, just
me too,
because it muddies up my own inspiration. And it's nice to have that as, you know, I call it my RAM up here. I put it back there in my RAM, and if I need to pull it forth, I will, and I'll say, oh, that's an interesting coincidence. If it's in the Bible, there's a high probability that the side that is not in our best interest is going to utilize that to manifest things that are aligned with what's in the Bible. So I always look at what's twisted in the book of Revelations and the apocalypse. Like growing up in the LDS church, you're thinking apocalypse is the end of the world. But you know, anybody who does any research realizes that apocalypse is great change and it's not bad. And so you know, so, you know, it's just hell, fire, and damnation from the start. And that's where your mind goes. And so
if you think positive, and you think that this is the new world that's coming, then everyone's going to be okay. But there's going to be a lot of people who are going to start seeing the really bad things that people like us have been talking about, unfortunately.
Well, and the energy is fear, and that's what they push, right? So if you're in a fear mindset, you're going to find yourself on that scary timeline, and you don't want to be there. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Can I ask you, and I know you didn't want to really talk too much about scripture, but my question to you is regarding the new world. You know, everyone, when they sit in whatever type of church, they talk about this new world. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like a lot of people are catching on to the biblical times, so to speak. Does that make any sense, what I'm trying to say?
Well,
like they go to church and they talk about these things, but it's not computing. Does that make sense?
It does. And it's primarily because a lot of people who are still and listen, in no way, if there's anybody on this particular feed, I don't want anybody to think that I have any issues with religion unless people are hurting themselves. I always give this disclaimer: if somebody is hurting themselves or someone else, that's where I get concerned or involved. If they're not hurting any, you know, it's because each person's spiritual path is their own. So I don't get involved in that.
And it should be, right?
Right. Like wherever we are, that's our soul's journey. And I just, so these opinions are purely about prices. So take it if they resonate.
That's a good gematria code. I'm going to do that after.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, at the end of the day, you know, I sit here and I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
Oh, just religion itself. And
oh yeah, so I was going down the path of, you know, we are constantly from a young age, you know, and then the longer you spend in any religion, we're giving our power away. And I think, you know, whether we're giving it away to a perceived deity that is our creator, and that's our belief system, and asking for constant help, and we're in this toxic codependent life cycle of, you know, asking for help for everything, and you can really get crazy with it if you're feeling very desperate, and it turns into a toxic spiritual relationship that you have with this deity, and then it turns into fear, and all of these other things happen. You lose your own power in the process. And so you know, without getting too deep into the weeds, there's a lot of people that are in that scenario on planet Earth right now, right? So when things start happening, there's a lot of fear that's going to happen, because what's going to happen is they're not going to understand this deity that they have been putting their faith in is not going to be what they think it is. And so you know, a long time ago, I had inspiration on, you know, of course, you don't really know what's going to happen, but the reality is if you're giving your power away, anybody can show up and claim to be that person, and lead you down a path of, you know, where you naturally wouldn't want to be, and create fear and these types of things. And so when I look at these end times, and when I look at whatever this looks like to us, and however many years it takes to get there, whether it's this year, next year, or 10 years from now, I know a lot of people have their opinion on that, but Mother Earth and Father Son will do it in their own time. The reality is that there's going to be people that are stuck in fear because they're not empowered for themselves. They're not going within.
They didn't save themselves. Yeah,
and
they
so
didn't save themselves.
That will put them in a position to where, okay, anybody can step in, claim that they're deity, and there's plenty of people out there in 4D and whatever playing God, right? So that's how we found ourselves in this situation with the matrix around this planet Earth and all of these other situations. But the reality is that people who are awakening are becoming a problem. That's why it's getting close, and that's why we all can feel it, because it's a critical mass, and there's just no way they can avoid it. And so what they're trying to do is take as many with them as they can off world, and they're going to try and convince us that we want to get off this world. and because it's going to be collapsing and whatever. And that's my opinion of what's going to be happening. It may not. It may be that. It may be worse than that. We may get our star brothers and sisters to decloak and show up and things like that. But
I mean,
you
like
never,
what they talk about in government where they say, oh yeah, and they finally, you know, how many decades they're like, okay, this is all real, but no one really
the problem is that, you know, even our government has a lot of that technology and use it for in a way that's deceptive for humanity too. And so that's what's going to be confusing for humanity when things really start hitting the fan, because you're not going to know who's who. I mean, it's going to get confusing for everyone. And that's where the fear is going to step in, you know. So without getting into the aspect of anything else crazy spiritually happening with the veil falling and these, you know, one thing that's very clear to me in my awakening and my meditation and all of these things that have been spiritual on my journey is that when the veil falls, when the matrix, the moon matrix gets disrupted, and we are able to see with our spiritual eyes, then that's when everybody's going to start freaking out, because you're going to start seeing, you're going to have an awareness of your past lives. You're going to have an awareness of everything around you. You're going to see things like they really are. I'm excited to see what's going to happen to religion, because there's no way religion in its current state can stand in that environment.
I agree. And I'm really excited. I mean, nothing's getting through me. I'm just saying, because I think so many of us that have been on this journey, you know, being laughed at for so many years, like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist and all that. I'm like, well, have you looked at this? Did you ask, you know, questions? Oh, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I'm like, well, do you go to church? Yeah, I do. And I'm like, well, is any of this connecting? Like, you know, the times?
You're like, so wait, you believe in somebody you can't see and that you've never met? Okay, how's that any different than what I'm doing here? Right. So,
yeah, exactly. And and after going down the rabbit hole, you know, that's what Jesus was trying to tell everyone. There's just way too many rules. Look, we had talked about this before. I do feel like religion was necessary to keep the faith going, but it's how it got botched by a lot of the corporate church, so to speak. And
well, it's that patriarchal grip, right? Like you know, the women certainly feel that pain, and you see the patriarchal grip everywhere you go in the world every day, right? Whether it's in the workplace, whether wherever you go, you know. And you know, now we've got this environment where there's, you know, where feminine, you know, the divine feminine is standing up, and I love that. But the problem is you've got a movement within femininity which has also become toxic. So now it's emasculated the men, and the men are out of balance too. So you've got an imbalance with masculine, and you've got an imbalance with feminine. And so in order for us to fit through that eye of the needle that Jesus talks about, you have to be in balance, right? You have to have that balance of the masculine. You have to have that balance of the feminine. And they both need to come together, right? So the problem is that current modern day religion, for the most part, is very patriarchal, very left-leaning masculine, and out of balance. And so I'm excited with everything here for spirituality to come back into balance and to bring the feminine and the masculine back together. Guess what? The men can be in the kitchen cooking, and the women can be out changing brakes on the car. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? But with the joking aside, that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to, you know, it doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter, you know, what gender you are, and all of
another
those
label,
things.
more
Another
labels.
label. Let's get out of that, and let's just understand that we are souls inhabiting a body. This body, I mean, it's just this little vehicle we're using to travel and learn through the universe. So why are we so caught up in that nonsense, right?
Right. I love the way that you're talking, because, you know, I feel like a lot of people that were on our live last night and so forth, they get it. They get it. And you reminded me of something. You triggered something when you were talking. I did want to mention to people that are watching or catch the replay is we're not bashing religion at all. Like, people that are going, they are believers in God. And that's not what we're trying to get to. It's just all of the corporate side of it. And a lot of people are feeling like it's not even necessary, because we can all go within. We're always talking and connecting
Yeah.
within. That's how it's supposed to be. Prayer and meditation got labeled. It's the same thing, and that's one thing I can't wait till, with entertainment and all this bullshit going on in the world, that like enough of the labels. I'm so tired of the labels. And I think everyone else is tired of the labels, because when they recognize that every single thing we say, do, speak, act, whatever it is, it's all a label. And when people can wrap their minds around that it really is, that's a beginning point where they realize, oh my gosh, I picked up all these habits and how we act and talk and dress and so forth from these labels and things that are shoved in our face. We can't even think for ourselves to be original anymore. And I think it's changing. So I'm excited.
If you wouldn't mind, Sharon, I'd like to take just a minute to talk about the new deception, the new age deception that people may or may not be aware of. And that's it's the new age religion, the new age spirituality. It's got a lot. It's just like regular religion that we're all familiar with. It's got little nuggets spread all throughout that resonate because there's a lot of truths in there. But it's just another stop along the way to your own self-empowerment. I call it the new cage religion, because it's just a repackaging of these other religions to make it a little bit more floofy and make you feel like you're a little bit more self-empowered, but all you've got out of one and jumped right into the other. So you have to be very, very careful as you're on this journey, that if you truly, and this happens a lot to people who are leaving the LDS church, okay, and I've been in a lot of groups and talked to a lot of people, and frankly I was kind of a participant in it too, and I didn't realize and that's how sly it is, because you're just, it's Shelley, you probably heard me talk about this love and light bombing, right? Anybody who's been in a relationship with a narcissist and has been love bombed, or you've been LDS, you've been love bombed, or and what have you. It's the same thing in the new age. You get that, and you start to feel this love that you don't get because we're so starved of it. And so
I think everyone is.
Everyone is. And so that's part of the technique. You get into the new age, you find your little group, and some may be more leaning towards energy, some may be leaning more towards these these retreats that where there's plant medicine, and none of these things are inherently wrong or bad, right? So I don't want to send that message. But the problem is you go down this path again where you get lost in it, as opposed to finding your own self. And so that's the message that I want to send, because it's what's happening when you're leaving the LDS. I'm just going to speak from perspective of LDS, because I was in there for 40 years. So, from 8 to 48. Yes. So, the one thing I can tell you, is that you leave one and you feel like you're alone. It's like leaving a toxic codependent relationship. You feel naked in the wilderness and you're looking for a group. It's scary and it's hard. Some people get lost in sex. Some people get lost in alcohol, drugs, whatever. Some people find new age religion. Everybody's
meanness, nastiness, like the list goes on every emotion you can think of. Yeah,
and they're all searching because they feel lost, because while they were in that religion, they were giving their power away the entire time. They don't know who they are. So
exactly, that is a beautiful way of putting it. Thank you for saying that, because I feel that that's what people have been doing as well.
So with and I know you had a specific thing that you wanted to go over, and I'm trying to loop it back into that. It's like the one message here is that you want to make sure that as you're on your way out, that grieve. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to be sad, and it's okay to let go. And Shelley had a great story. Don't let them suck you back in.
It's you be you. Find your inner child.
I'm glad you love me, but let me have my own spiritual path. That's the problem with religion, as you guys probably know, the lack of boundaries. I don't need you to save me. I'm going to save myself. That's the problem.
Yes, I so agree.
Too, because when you talk about Bob getting into the new age and things, I also was in the new cage because of wanting the community too. Plus, I've just always been a seeker of truth. And it's interesting. I was self-righteous in religion because we were set apart. We're the special. And then I became self-righteous in the new age woo-woo. And it took a relative of mine, someone younger than me that was very close to me, to whenever religion would come up, this person always wanted me to come back into the, and I was, I get where you're coming from. I remember being there. And after so many times of hearing similar things to that, this soul said to me, you know, you act like you're better than me because you've been here. And now you've transcended that. And I wasn't ready to hear that. And that was feedback. But that was really good coaching for me to take a look. Do I think I'm better than? You know, and no. And I also, what you said, Sharon, about respecting those that are devout in their religions. Yes. And so for me and Bob, I would say, at least for me, it's either working or not working. And I came to a point in my life where it was no longer working for me. And I didn't feel good about myself and my place in the world. And
I'm sorry.
So yeah, but
you're here now. Woohoo!
And I do know my value now and my worthiness. And I want to also address what you asked about what the new heaven on earth could look like, Sharon. And I would say I've experienced a little bit of it. I had an out of body in about 2000, around 2000, and what it's like, I saw the backyard of the home I was living in at the time, where like the fences kind of just disappeared and everything that was just grass looked lush, like it was gorgeous. And there were flowers everywhere of all kinds of colors. There was a fountain and the water.
And this is broad daylight type of a thing, or was it in your mind?
It was at night, and I was having an out of body. I'd had a surgery home from it. And I think I just couldn't tolerate the pain anymore and kind of left my body for a moment. You know, I wouldn't call it a near-death experience. I mean, it could have been, but I didn't. But I did.
Just like Angel Studios, they just had a release on that. I want to encourage people to watch that because they're a credible company there. They're credible, so people will understand that this stuff is real. Basically, what I'm saying.
Freedom. I was impressed with them already. Just I do want to say what it was like, and humming. There was a vibration that I could feel and hear and sense, and then also I noticed that the waters, they were alive, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the living waters. Like, and there were souls that had graduated, that had passed on, that were older than me. And they were just playful and playing. And one of the women that was a neighbor of mine that had died in a car wreck the year before was always she just held herself like quietly with a little, I mean, she didn't smile big. She was just, and she went to church, with me at the time and all of that, but, or years before that. And she had the hugest ear to ear grin on her face.
She's like, it's so much better over here.
To see her like that. But I will say two things that also stood out, because there were different experiences within this moment. And one of them was my dad, who had passed away more than a dozen years earlier, who I'd really wanted to connect with. And I had smelled him before. I'd smelled his essence and I'd had some dreams about him, but this was so real. And he came to me and he was telling me that I was to wake others up. And I was still awakening myself. And I remember, how do I do that? Because he was like showing me, because it was nighttime, the neighbors in the homes and things were all asleep. He's like, you're supposed to wake them up. But my higher self came to me at the end of this. And I recognize this as my higher self, just beautiful and full of wisdom and full of grace and knowledge and everything, all of the whole enchilada. And this soul took and placed something in my hand and then closed my hand and put her hands over my hand. And then when I opened it, I looked and there was a gold coin in my hand with my face on it. Now, do I believe there's heaven with me on it? No, but it was like, she said to me, all this time you have valued the wrong things, value this. And when I realized it was me, I should have been valuing instead of material things. It was so
that's beautiful, Shelley. Oh my gosh, you can't make that stuff up.
I can't make that up. It lives within me. I've only shared it with a few souls, you know, I'd say dozens by now, because this many years have gone by, but it was so profound that it was life-changing for me. And I changed a lot of things in my life shortly after.
That's how it works, don't you feel? Thank you for sharing that. And for the record, I want to share with the audience, whether they're catching this live or in the future, is Bob and Shelley are the most down-to-earth people. They are. They're intelligent, they're creative, they're very responsible. And I'm ready for everyone to break that mold where just because people are so angry and frustrated and, following some corporate church and they've never really found themselves, don't get angry at people like us that you don't understand it because, you know, people like you and Bob, you're just being true to what you feel inside. And that's what the rest of us are doing. And enough of the labels. We're doing away with the labels of the woohoo because people make themselves look bad. It's you connecting with your higher self. And I'm so proud of you. That's beautiful. Wow.
That's awesome. Thank you for
That's
sharing that.
Yeah. I'm going to do gematria on that after.
Can't wait.
Just saying. Because you know me. Wow, though, Shelley, that to wrap your mind around that, I mean, I feel like what you said when people have surgeries or accidents. I mean, I got a buddy, Rob back east, and he had a really bad accident as well. And that was the beginning of him, going on this journey, realizing just like, whether people want to hear the name or not, like President Trump, he's been telling you everything is a lie. And guess what? He has pretty much been spot on about everything. It just took a little bit of time. And I know some people don't want to hear it. And what I've learned is so many people are just getting programmed with the anger and the nastiness that they don't even want to be open to being open. They were programmed by all this stupid media, that I'm superior than everyone and I'm more important because I'm more educated and more successful and whatever. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. And matter of fact, that goes against everything that Jesus was about. So, but thank goodness that, people like you, I mean, all these people that are awakening in masses and leaving the Mormon church. I mean, I am so proud of these people because they feel it. They feel it. And it was someone like you or I and the rest of the people that are out there that says that one thing that triggers something in someone's head and they're like, oh, and it just gives them a whole new perspective. And I feel like that's how it all starts. Do you guys feel the same?
Absolutely. I talk about the fear quite a bit, but Sharon, your experience of this is a little different than maybe Shelley and mine because you don't come from an LDS background, but it doesn't diminish the fact that you get ostracized in the process of not seeing things similar to the societal norm. And so, the one thing that I could say is that a lot of us aren't going to have the choice as these timelines converge. What's going to happen, it's going to feel like sand slipping through your fingers. Family members are going to slip away. There's nothing you can do about it. The harder you try and hold on to them, the more difficult it's going to become because their intended outcome in this process is to repeat another cycle. And whether that's here, whether that's somewhere else, it's not on the timeline of those that are awakening and accepting the change. And so it hurts the departure from our family, but we can delight in knowing, like Shelley's experience, that on the other side, we are all souls on this journey. Some of us are a little bit further up the ladder than others. And the reality is we are all going to connect with them again. So, you said it very well, Sharon. Let's not get caught up in the labels, in the hatred, in the finger pointing, because we're all on the same journey. It's ridiculous. It's a waste of time. And at the end of the day, you could sit there and lose your way grieving over the loss, or you can just move on, respect their journey, and say, I'll meet you again sometime, brother or sister.
That resonates. Yep, that resonates 100%. I'm very grounded with that aspect of it. I love what you just said.
Energy and vibration anyway. So that's why we're a family, the three of us and the others that we connect with, because we vibrate and have the similar frequencies.
Absolutely.
So if somebody's and there's no higher or lower or wrong or right. It's just about the ones that vibrate together stay together. And so I'm grateful for these family members that have been brought to me that I wasn't born into and with blood, because there are those that I am blood with that I'm so grateful to also be connected with. But those that feel like I'm bad, sick, and wrong, that's okay. That's their judgment.
Yeah.
And they can
Yeah.
have that opinion, and that's all right. You
And
know,
that's
bless them.
beautiful. I'm so glad you said that because I feel the same way. I mean, it's so nice when you finally find the people that don't judge you and you can tell them some of the craziest things that has ever happened to you and not be judged because you're tired of talking in your own mind. And I feel like there's millions and millions of us out there that are doing the same thing. Like, please just send me the right people in my path. And I feel like it's definitely happening. It's definitely happening, whether people are more patriotic or into the politics and so forth. For me, I'm like, I just want everyone to be happy, not judge everyone, and let's just get this show on the road, you know? I
You
mean,
just want to have what we want to have, me and Bob, which is connection and transformation of ourselves and humanity and this planet. And so your ideas
yeah.
for wanting to bring everyone together with the same
Oh,
goal is so
thank you.
beautiful. And that's why
Thank you.
I'm with you, sister. I'm so
I love it. I love it.
lo-
And thank you for that because honestly, it's been in my mind for years and just the outpour of just people that are reaching out. Like I said, if anyone's seeing this, if I haven't responded to you, I'm going to make sure because everyone matters and I appreciate you. But yeah, I wanted to create something so simple that it was easy for everyone. That's it. That's how
the
it's all
journey
going to
seems
start.
a little more tolerable when you know other people have been through it just a little bit ahead of you, and you can hear about what they're going through, right? And you're like, oh, I don't
Yeah.
feel so alone. The I don't know
Yeah.
if I've mentioned it before, Sharon or Shelley, but when I was first out of you know my I was starting to look around and trying to figure things out and coming out of the church, and I was attending EX-MORMON get-togethers here in Utah, and they were happening on Sundays at Starbucks, which I thought was awesome. But it's like, and I would see these people who were in tremendous pain at these
Yeah.
meetings. So it is like a divorce. It is like the loss of a loved one, and because you've committed so much of your love, passion, and time, and it's disruptive to families. You lose a lot when you start to step away from the church. And so I remember going to these meetings, and there was just all different flavors of issues, and people from the age of 15, 16 there, all the way up to 60 and 70. And I was having fascinating discussions with all of them. Some were divorced dads because they were
Yeah.
following their truth, and their ex-wife was alienating them because they
Yeah.
didn't believe in the church, and that's toxic for the children. And
It's
or
like divorces, it's like
yeah,
teaming up against each other on,
I saw
who
these.
did what and this and that. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
it's
just
no
a
different, but
ridiculous.
a deep, deep level.
It's a ridiculous battle. I mean, and I observed, and talked with plenty of people who had a different lifestyle, whether or they were homosexual, and their parents wouldn't accept them, and they couldn't go home, and their parents were ultra religious, and I saw the pain. They had members of their family who accepted that, and they had others who didn't, but their parents,
Sad though.
and
Why
then you
can't
watch.
people accept people for just who they are, as long as they're kind and they're not hurting anyone? That's
Yeah,
all.
exactly. Do no harm, and we're good.
Yeah.
Then the ones that were very, all of this was very touching to me, of course. One of the things that was very, very touching to me were the older couples that were in their 60s and 70s. They'd spent a lifetime in the church,
Yeah. Talk about a whole new.
giving their time and their money, and they're on to great grandchildren and all of this, and then they wake up and realize, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. And
Mhm.
so it was interesting from my perspective to visit those, because in the process I realized, okay, we're all in just different parts of awakening, and we all
Mhm.
feel pain. We all feel the
Yeah.
pain of the loss, and so my heart goes. I don't know where any of them are now, but the reality is that for that small moment in time where Sharon, either you or Shelley, me, you or me, when we interact with these people in the future, we'll be able to kind of serve as a way shower as to, you can make it too.
Yeah. And thank you. That's so beautiful. You said it like that because you broke it down. I say this all the time, but ex-Mormons are some of the strongest people I've ever met. And even though I'm not in the religion, I can relate to totally being outcasted and so forth for being different and speaking my mind. And you know, I just never stopped denying it. I just kept listening within, and people can kiss my ass. I'm sorry. I'm just saying. And I think everyone else should say the same thing. Like, hey, if you don't like me, there's the door. But you know what? The door opens if you're open to being open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a beautiful way. I mean, that's where people need to kind of come together and say, you know, it's okay to agree to disagree, but at least listen and be there and, you know, take what you want from it. We're supposed to be listening to each other, not judging each other.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me. So crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you what I learned about judgment.
Yes, please do.
Learned about judgment along the way by judging. I got to experience the very things I've judged. I noticed teens and 20s that if someone was heavy, if another woman or a guy, or, you know, like they carried extra weight, are they lazy? Why don't they just? And then I got to experience being obese, you know, so that I got to like have compassion.
You're beautiful.
Happened because I went into such a tailspin with depression and not having the will to even really live anymore. And
because people were ousting you basically from leaving the religion.
It was before then. It's because I could not align with what I'd been taught to believe that was actually true within me. And I didn't.
Because you kept questioning everything.
Yes, I didn't have that strong connection to myself. Yes, so judgment was a big part of that. I was judged before I gained the weight. I was been judged ever since. But it's come down. You know, it's been melting off, and I've made it a conscious effort to. But I want to say that I did experience that. I also experienced judging when I was active in the Mormon faith, getting married in the temple and taking on all those promises, covenants, and things, and to see like other friends that left the church, and I just felt so sad for them and judged them like, what is wrong with them? Why can't they just see that if they would just follow the gospel principles, they would be happy, and they need, you know, and they need.
That's an interesting point, Shelley. I love that you're bringing this up, because a lot of the, and if I can just say this, is a lot of the people that I've been talking to and interviewing, I mean, that's, for some reason, they're told that they're, you know, kings and queens, and they're better than everyone else. And I thought, ooh, that's kind of yucky. So you got to experience that. And
I mean, the list can go on and on of all the things I've judged that I got to experience so that I could like stop judging.
Well,
do you feel better though about it now that you see both sides? You know what I mean? Like you were judging everyone else.
I mean, that can still get into judgment, but at least I am mindful enough and conscious and aware enough to know that, hey, that's just a thought, and that doesn't mean it's true. And you know, get back in my own lane, for goodness sake.
Stop worrying about everyone else. Work on yourselves first, right?
And I am so glad you brought that up, Shelley, because just this week alone, I recognized, as much of the healing work as I've done, the gift that religion gives you, and in my case LDS religion gives you, is the permanent gift bestowed upon you of being self-judgmental. You're constantly in your head, even if you have awakened to the aspect that you're perfect the way you are, and that there is no such thing between good, right and wrong, and all this in the higher realms. None of that matters, because we are still human, and we carry this programming that exists from our youth in the religion. And so I could be going through a day and something can happen, then all of a sudden I'm thinking, okay, did I hurt that person's feelings? Did I say this? I could have done better here. I could have, and at the end of the day I'm thinking to myself, why am I being so hard on myself? And that's that is the dark side of what religion gives us, and I love what you said, Shelley, about being mindful, because that's exactly what you have to do when Demon Bob gets in there and starts nagging him in the back of my mind that I'm being a horrible person. I'm like, hey, I'm just being human. Let me be a human. And you have to be able to be mindful enough to say, you know, okay, listen, I recognize where this is coming from, and but because
Yeah.
you know, that is the pain of religion after the escape from organized religion, for sure.
Yeah. You know,
And
it's
that's
interesting.
perfect.
I how can I put this? I was just noticing online that there's, you know, younger generations leaving the Mormon church as well, which I was really pleasantly surprised to see that they could see all these certain things, that their rules and so forth, something wasn't jiving. You know, I think that those, they need to be recognized, because they're going to start a movement as well. I mean, think about that being, you know, you've got the elders and you've got and everyone is just kind of coming together. I love it. I love that.
That's beautiful. Well, and I also want to share, and Bob's saying LDS, and for those on here that don't know, another term for the Mormons, so I don't want to be called Mormons anymore, is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which is LDS. But I want to say that I looked at, maybe more than 25 years ago, I looked at what were my fixed beliefs in life, like the fixed beliefs, you know, with the education system, and the fixed beliefs about myself, when you say self-judgment, Bob, and the fixed beliefs about religion and politics and everything else. And with religion, I had this epiphany that whatever my parents were is what I would have believed. If they had been Baptist, I would have thought that was the only true church. If they had been Methodist, Jehovah's Witness, Seventh-day Adventist, Buddhist, or atheist, I would have thought that that was the only way, and that was
Because you look up to your parents. They're supposed to protect you and look out for you and show you the way.
And then they show me the way to church, and then the teachers are bashing that down, or shoving that down our throats as well. I mean, you know, so I looked at like, wow, if I hadn't been raised that way, what do I believe? And that was a really good exit point for me. And I had a spouse at the time that just said, you know, if you can't be Mormon, I don't think I could be married. And for me, that was like a ticket to freedom, because it was a marriage that wasn't working anyway. I mean, I'm not going to put this guy down, because he has a lot of fine qualities. At the same time, the combination of us, and even our own kids have said this, I mean, like, they couldn't believe we're oil and water, but it was kind of like mixing a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a tuna sandwich. I mean, just nauseating. It's not
Thank you for sharing that. That makes a lot of sense. And I feel like that's a big reason why people get divorced to begin with, because you finally realize there's nothing in common. You don't have the same values and goals and so forth. You know, some people, you know, I feel like some people are more materialistic, and they, you know, and they want to show the world that they've made something of themselves and so forth. And hey, that's fine, you know, but I think
we've been programmed for that too, Sharon. We've been programmed that that's where our enoughness lies, in what we can do rather than how we be.
That in the LDS religion, your value is in the perpetuation of family, right? So, you know, you go on a mission if you're a young man, and you come back and you get married, and you build a family, and you build a large family, and you bury those roots so deep that you're attached to generation after generation of LDS Incorporated. Then your kids, you know, you can't back out once you've already established this foundation of religion. You know, you wake up in the middle, for 10 years you've been taking your kids to church, and then all of a sudden you're like, what? Well, you just have to bow your head and say yes, because what are you going to do? You're going to switch gears? Because
that's a good point.
Now your family's going to fall apart, your kids are going to fall apart. No man wants to face that, because every man, his value and his self-worth is in his work and in his family and what he brings to his family, any good man. And so it's difficult for men to reconcile that if they awaken. I can't tell you how many priesthood meetings I sat in that in the LDS church on Sundays, where it was just the living dead. They all just sat there and barely wanted to be there.
Like a bump on a log. My parents used to use that phrase all the time. Stop being a bump on a log.
Well, I'm going to say,
it's time to get some fresh air.
Exactly.
You know?
It
like
was
all these kids today. It's like, go.
I don't know. I've watched some of these shows on television about serving time. It felt more like that, like they were, you know, just serving time.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I
But
get what
anyway.
you're putting down, Bob.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it.
You know, you said the point is, and the coming back from a mission and getting married, for the men and even the women, is get married right away, stay moral. And that means like get married. They're encouraged to get married right after getting home. So are they actually choosing a spouse that is the best match for them? How does anybody
Exactly.
know at like 20 years old? Because now they're going out at 18.
They don't even know themselves at that age. Their frontal lobes aren't even
I
developed.
That's a beautiful point that I mean, we're all still like, what's going on with like you're still in that immature. I do believe though, when people, many generations ago, I think they grew up really fast, but in today's world, because of all this materialism and just, there's a lot of people that they're just not getting it, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Well, there's a lot of giving up easy nowadays. I would say that because of the convenience that we live in now, I think people don't push through, fight through, put the effort in that maybe some of the generations before us did, because
Yeah.
we just accepted that life was hard. You get up and you dust yourself off and you keep pressing forward for
Yeah.
better or for worse. People like me do it for worse, but you do it because that's how you were raised. You don't whine
Yeah.
about it. You just move forward. Nowadays, yeah, it's like it's instant cancel culture now, and that's kind of, if you have a different, hey, let's have a conversation. Oh wait, you don't agree with me? You're canceled. You're a narcissist. You're this. You're labeled.
The
You're this.
labels. You're crazy. Blah,
If you
blah,
don't,
blah. Yeah.
people can't exist in the fact or think about the reality that maybe their opinion is wrong and they can't take the accountability of that, or they're scared to
Yeah.
look outside of that. So the younger generations, or the iPad generation, is really struggling with that right now. I see it everywhere I go. They can't carry on a full-fledged conversation, eye to eye, handshake, real, without feeling uncomfortable, without, the social aspect. And so I don't know, I'm not trying to get too far off target, but the reality is that until you're, late 20s, early 30s, you don't even know yourself. So how are you getting married, right? So we have a
agree.
whole, but that doesn't interest the LDS church, and I can't speak for the LDS church, another disclaimer, but there seems to be a trend of getting kids married and pushed out really quick. And then all of this chaos 20 years later of incompatibility and broken families, and nobody's talking about that, right?
Yeah.
You have a 50 to 60% divorce rate in regular USA anyways, but I'd like to see what it is in LDS Incorporated, because
that's a very interesting
there's
point.
a lot of trauma. There's a tremendous amount of trauma in LDS Incorporated because people feel trapped, like they can't leave. And that's an epidemic nobody's talking about.
And that's so scary to think about. Here, it's supposed to be a loving environment, and all this turmoil happens. I mean, to me, being an outsider, that's something, again, why I ask questions so much with people that are leaving, because it just does not resonate. Doesn't resonate. Yeah.
It's hard. I'm just talking about the dark side of it, Sharon, but there's a lot of great parts of it too. But these are the things that are overlooked, and there's a lot of people suffering, which is why you and Shelley and myself are here, is to say it's okay to think about yourself and to heal yourself and to move on. And Shelley, it sounds like you've been there. I've been there in the dark night of the soul, to where you feel like you want to die.
Yeah.
And in the departure from the religion, and you go in, you go out, you go in, you go out, and every time you go in and out, you give a little bit of yourself away. You feel a little bit less, you get more depressed, it gets worse.
Everyone does. Everyone does. I mean, it's not even just in the church, it's everywhere. That's exactly the brain pattern that everyone has.
That's like that in regular if you need a divorce and you keep doing that in your relationship, and you keep compromising to where you're sacrificing your core self, it's the same thing, right?
Yep, I agree.
And so that's where a lot of people are trapped in this scenario. They create, while you can't make a decision in your early 20s, you think you're a genius in your 20s, but
everyone does, right?
and then they get married, and then what do you do when you start popping out kids? You're like, oh, I'm just going to ignore this, put my head down and go to work. And we're just going to pray at night and at meals and we should be fine.
Yeah. And that doesn't usually work.
Yeah, no, it does not.
Yeah.
The beach ball underwater. Like it just takes so much energy, honestly, to shove those feelings down, doubts down. And I want to say too, since you said that about having the children so young, and then what are you going to do then? Like, I feel bad for my 4 children that I birthed and raised, because I was so young. I mean, I started at 19 and a half, for heaven's sake.
Jeez, yeah, that is young.
Children raising children.
I mean, especially today, that's a scary thought. Though when I see the way kids act out there, I'm like, oh, that's kind of scary. Yeah.
I'm scared about the old folks home, but it's like, I've got a couple of children who are upset at me. So I know they're not going to be at the old folks home, but I got to worry about other kids taking care of me at the old folks home. But it's true. It's what happens is those kids, you're raising yourself alongside of the children you're trying to raise. So you create a lot of emotional distress. You're trying to break generational patterns of abuse, emotional and otherwise, and your kids are there to see it. And, Shelley had what she termed a tuna fish jam sandwich relationship, which I also did. Although I would say I was the jam sandwich. That's the sweeter one. But, but when you have people that don't have enough time to spend together before they get married or live together, or understand if they can even be intimate together, and then you stick them together, you're destined for disaster every time,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and when somebody's on a spiritual journey and they're a seeker of truth and they're willing to look outside of the box, then that couple is not necessarily growing together. There's a growing apart. And
exactly. Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Like, why would I look into these things? If nothing's wrong, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Well, okay within me. But I do want to say too, like when Bob brought up about going to the Starbucks and meeting with other former Mormons and the pain they're in. I mean, there are angry people. Under the anger is always the pain. And so I want to say that I was fortunate enough to go to a leadership training, self-discovery training here in Northern Utah, that awoken me to how accountable was I being in my life. Like, if I came across, I had a victim mentality. Okay, that was in my DNA. That was ancestral lines. That was everything, and and maybe even in society, because if I'm a victim, then I get sympathy, and the sympathy feels good, right? No, it's not. It's not love, and it took this self-actualizing training to bring that up. But the accountability in my part in it is so freeing. And I got to look at what were the prices that souls are paying to be in relationship with me. That was a hard look. There was a lot of homework involved and a lot of writing to take a look at how I've shown up. And so that's been huge. But I want to say, it was similar to what you kind of see on the Netflix series or show about Tony Robbins. And it's called I Am Not Your Guru. And it shows how he goes through and he interrupts the patterns that people have with their fixed beliefs, the patterns they've created.
That's awesome. I've heard so many people talk about how much they've learned and really gone within things they never thought about. I think that's awesome.
Well, this brings my point that I wrote down these notes for you, Sharon, because if you've got that kind of training, if anybody can afford those things, like doing a Tony Robbins, you can do them online now. You can go to a training. You can go to retreats and things, but there are smash rooms to go and get the anger out and smash the crap out of, items that wear the productive gear, take a sledgehammer or bat and just beat things, and that gets the rage out. I would encourage somebody to do that with somebody with them that's a mentor that could walk them through how to release those emotions safely, because then that gets that anger and rage out, gets it out of the body, and then the pain can be addressed. But if there's smash rooms and then there's rehabs, I've never been to one, but I currently have a friend that I have a relative that majored in psychology and could always identify different things, and kind of showed me where I was so naive and gullible in a lot of ways to sociopaths and narcissists. And the term narcissist It's thrown around a lot, but anyone that's a taker and takes advantage of a giver, okay, that's the kind.
Or puts them down and all that, and yeah, it's all the same. Yeah.
Piece of crap. But there are rehabs for people that have these tools that they give the souls to do homework. And so if you've got that, and then there's counseling, there's neurofeedback sessions, there's plant medicine in clinical settings, and that's guided with, so I mean, if there are those out there that are retired from these kind of things that have these tools that can offer for a reduced price or for free, please reach out to Sharon, because she's creating this community thinking tank idea where people bring their ideas together to support each other in the communities. And it would be so beautiful to have these kind of things so that former Mormons or anyone coming out of a religion or anyone coming out of the fog of life and realizing there's something more, but they feel so stuck in the betrayal
and judgment and everything.
There's tools out there that are beautiful that can be used, and I use some with my Reiki and access consciousness and quantum touch. I mean, I'm in the room where I do this and right now, and I've seen miracles happen. And
I've heard so many as well, and I'm proud that you're doing it, because I remember so many years ago I thought that kind of stuff was crazy until I did my research. And what I found is it's very real. Your government doesn't want you to know about it. And I mean, everyone looks up to Tesla and all this, all these geniuses, but yet from what we see, in the everyday, we're not seeing it, but it's there and it works. So that's awesome.
Well, and now I accept energy exchanges, whatever that looks like, but in the form of money and gifts and things from souls, because I have value. My time is valuable too. And it took a while for me to really get my worthiness in all of this and what I deserve. But I'm willing to do it for free. And I have for many, many, many years. But I just there's a part of me that heals when I'm involved in the other person healing, and I'm an instrument for light and love to flow through. So there have been many miracles that have occurred because of these gifts and because I'm being true to my higher self, and I choose to embody my higher self, create this vessel for spirit to be present.
That's beautiful how you put it. Can I ask you, and this is a good question. I remember when I started to awaken and I kept hearing that higher self term. Can you both give me a description of what that feels like and looks like for you? Shelley, would you want to continue?
Well, mine came through letting me know who I've always been and who I am in this incarnation, which is I'm a divine, compassionate, powerful, inspiring being of light.
You are.
And thank you. And my purpose here on this planet is to inspire so that we can create heaven on earth. We can create, miracles here, and humanity is raised up and enlightened. And so to feel that, if there is a palpable feeling when I'm in spirit versus when I'm in my head,
there's a difference.
So recognizable. Yeah. There's no denying it.
Yeah.
So Bob, I want to hear what you.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I love it.
Yours was amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Shelley. It's
so simple too. I love it.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that everything in the universe doesn't need to be a quadratic equation or something complicated to try and figure out. It's like I have a firm belief through awakening that if it's simple, that's the way it's supposed to be, and so that's always a sure sign to me. I'm a little off topic right now, and I'll answer your question in a minute, but it's always a thing that I kind of attach to. If this is getting complicated, and I call it a mind-bending philosophy, and I'm like, because I know I'm not an idiot, and if you're trying to share something with me, and I'm really having to twist my brain to even conceptualize it, I'm like, okay, there's something wrong. I got to pause here for just a minute, so I think the organic way of our soul's intention is simple.
I agree.
So my how do I see a higher self? I mean, that's kind of a tricky question for me, because I don't I call him Big Rob, okay? Because what
Big Rob.
I don't want to do is see him from a hierarchical perspective, right? And the reality is that what is inhabiting this life here in this incarnation is a fragment of my complete oversoul in the eternity, in the eternal realm, the eternal now. This isn't the only experience I'm having. This is so I fragmented myself out in my awakening process. Listen, this is my truth, so let me just share it, but it answers your question. I fragmented myself out to have a multiplicity of experiences across the dimensions. We've all done that, right? It appears to us to be in a linear format across the dimensions, but the reality is it's all happening in the eternal now. And we're processing that information because we want to feel, in this particular case, this is the grindhouse of experience. Thank you, Big Rob. I love it here, but I'm ready to come home. If AI is listening, AI can hear that part too. So, but I'm good. I'm good with this one is tough because this is the PhD in duality. Okay. And so, while we can spend our time in getting angry about things, the reality is we asked for the experience. We wanted to be here. And so the distraction is the anger. It's the separation. And so Big Rob,
the game of life.
It's the game of life, right? And so Big Rob is here when I became aware that I am creating every moment in the eternal now, and that the largest part of my fragmentation is in this experience for a reason. Shelley said it so eloquently, here to be a light at this time for a reason. It's not by accident. This is the largest part of my fragmentation. Part of the beauty of what's happening now, when Ishmael talks about the timelines converging, what's happening is you're bringing back yourself into wholeness across all of this fragmentation. And so it's hard to conceptualize, right?
I'm glad you said that, because people that are listening, they're going to be like, what are they talking about? But one quick way, if I can explain it, is everyone's getting these chunks of information that pops in their head, and we just don't know where it comes from. Or, when you're literally having a dream, I mean, it's kind of like the same stuff, but they don't talk about it in school.
In your dreams, you're experiencing your multidimensional self.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, what's happening here is the greatest experience a soul can have is experiencing this experience. We have a lot of villains playing their parts, making it difficult, and it's so, the drama is fantastic. The one thing I learned in my out of my body
I know what you're saying, but okay.
We've got everybody playing their part, and they're all going to get embraced at the end, and we're going to tell them thank you because they served a purpose for us. We served them, they served us, and the eternal and our big higher self, if we want to call it our higher self, we all serve one another in duality to be able to understand the complexities of the universe that we're traveling through, And so beyond that, I don't have a better understanding. That's all I know now with the veil. But what I can tell you is that when I had my out-of-body experience, that it was so complex. And I know I say it's complex. It's only complex because my level of understanding here is so minimal because of the veil, right? So when I traveled out of body and I was getting downloaded with information, I said, I can't conceptualize this. This is completely, I remember saying this. I'm like, this is so crazy to me because, no, there's a God. I go to church on Sundays. There's right and wrong. I get judged, all of these things, the conflict, because outside of this scope of things, you have a full understanding of all things. When you meet somebody, you instantly know them. I think Ishmael talks about some of the stuff, which I think is pretty awesome. And I learned that so many years ago when I was 17 years old and I had it out of body. I had to shut it down because trying to exist in this space, you can't do it. It's a mind fuck. Oh, sorry.
You're fine. Drop it.
It is too difficult to walk between the worlds. You cannot do it and experience one.
And I think a lot of kids right now are going through that as well. Like they're getting these bits and pieces in their parents, so to speak. They just have no concept about this. And it's like, who do they talk to? Where do they go? And they're stuck in their own head, not understanding what that all is. Does that make sense to you?
For sure. The kids that are coming in now, are different than us for sure, because
Yep.
you know, our souls, regardless of where they're at in their soul progression in the eternal now, they're here for a specific reason, most of them. To be some of them, and the karmic discussion is a whole different show for us, but I will tell you, it's not about burning karma for them. It's about coming in and helping Mother Earth get to this next level and facilitating humanity's next experience, you know. So this whole journey that started off with Enlil and Enki and all of that family drama of the Nephilim and all of this other nonsense, none
Comes
of it
from
matters.
scripture, so people know that they're like, what are they talking about? It's actually from scripture. People just need to do some digging.
You know, you got one person pretending to be the other. At the end of the day, none of it matters. They're here specifically, and they don't think like we think. We've been indoctrinated. We've been bombarded. Shelley and I we've been through our spiritual Vietnam. These kids aren't going through that. They're going, this is bullshit. They come in knowing this is bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a different thing altogether.
Which is great. They don't want to get on the hamster wheel in the 9 to 5.
They're kind of like the black sheep, but
I mean,
they're built different. They're built different. You know, everybody wants
of their generation. What I mean,
everybody wants to throw ADD and ADHD around, and it is because they're vibrating at a higher frequency than we are. And and you can tell, you know, these kids that are just off in left field. You know, I go by and I watch. I'll be at the grocery store. It's hilarious. I'll watch a kid that has a iPad or an iPhone and this, and then they're also they're playing this game at the same time they're doing this. And I'm like, well, it drives me crazy, but their brains can process that. I'm just like, I could barely get down the aisle and grab the food I want, you know? So it's like, you know, they're just built.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're totally saying. And I agree with you. It's just
the social constructs, you know, the mathematics, the language, all of that is for them. It's like they struggle with it all. You know, the darkness of humanity, they struggle immensely with it
because they've labeled all of them that there's something wrong with them when they're gonna find out very soon. They're the geniuses. They're the geniuses. They're the ones that have all these great ideas instead of being dumbed down and numbed down by society and your government going, oh, it's just the way things are, you know? I'm excited for them though. Finally, they're just gonna break out and just, you know what, this is me, you know, and you know, like it or leave it. And I think that's the way it should be. And the nastiness.
Dimensional souls come in on different rays. So there's those that come in on the indigo ray and are called the indigo children, the rainbow ray, the crystalline, they're the crystal children, rainbow children. It's such a blessing, and we get to embrace the differences no matter what our age is and no matter what their ages are, because we all brought certain gifts to share with each other. We're all walking each other home.
So crazy when you think about it. We're gonna get done with this experience, and the illusion of separation, we're gonna laugh at it, you know. We're literally gonna look at the other people who were our villains in our story here and go, that's hilarious. It's hard. I see it. It's hard to do it right now for sure. But at some point you're gonna be like, oh, my ex-wife, come here. Oh, that was so nice. You made it torture down there.
They've been our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
I agree.
Absolutely.
It only makes you stronger.
Here to bring the contrast. I mean, if all we existed in was light, what kind of experiences would we really have? But
we wouldn't have learned anything.
Boring.
Why we signed up.
I love it. I love this perspective too, guys. I'm so grateful that you're sharing this, because I know in due time people are going to find you, and you know, all of this is going to resonate. I mean, and what I love in interviewing people that are awakening, especially the EX-MORMONs, is you all have the same vibe. Like, you all legit have the same vibe. And I love that, because I mean, every single one of them just has this beautiful story, yet it's a torture story at the same time, where they fought so hard to keep going when everyone else let them down and judged them and so forth. I mean, it's no different than today's society, but it's maxed out by like a gazillion percent. And I'm like, wow, that's why I'm so fascinated by their stories, because I can only imagine, and I say this with an open heart, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but I can only imagine how many people have taken their lives in those situations, like what their real true. Can you actually maybe explain, do you have any feedback on that? Because that just made me think, I mean, for people to go through this and so forth, I mean, is there a high rate of suicide by chance within the people
It's
leaving
up in
the
Rochester
church?
County with the teens, at least there always was.
What was
Um,
that?
Up in Box Elder County. And I remember years ago hearing that there are a lot of teen suicides there, but it's gotten rampant since the last 4 years of the pandemic, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I know that's also for our awakening. So I labeling it as a pandemic, but I coined the phrase and I always call it that. But yeah,
Wow, that
there
makes
is
me so sad.
desperation because of the not enoughness, because of the fixed beliefs that we're not enough. And I mean, if we're going to talk religion again, no matter which religion it is, if we're having to do, because it is not just getting married and popping out kids, there is a lot of jobs to do within the church. And the good news is that there's a community that shows up for each other. The sad news is there's always this dichotomy of not enoughness and try and strive. Maybe, just maybe you might make it to that highest kingdom and be with Jesus.
That's so sad when I hear them say that and you say that. And Rob, I mean, that breaks my heart. It's like, maybe someday you'll be good enough.
I'm not a
It's
gambler. And then they tell you you can't gamble. That whole thing's a gamble in itself.
It's true.
because they're gambling.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a gamble. Maybe you'll make it after you pay 10% of your entire, earnings and
It's just so messed up. That is, I mean, I look at these structures. Come on, people, let's be real here. You look at their structures and they're nothing like, someone slaps up a warehouse or, a brick building or whatever. They're just like slapped up and it takes no time. Like that's intricate work.
I can tell you this,
That's
Sharon,
not cheap. That's
this-
why they need their money.
Well, I'll tell you what,
I'm sorry if people think it's laughing, but I'm just making a statement.
this may sound like a joke, but this is actual reality. What broke me was the aspect of when they started saying they needed me to come in on my weekends and start cleaning the church. I said, you've got to be kidding me. You guys
got enough money to find someone to go clean it.
One of the largest landowners in America, major stockholders of major corporations, largest owner of cattle in America, and all of these temples going up everywhere. And I got to come in and clean on Saturdays?
Are you kidding?
I said,
to me, being on the outside, that makes no sense. They could hire someone with all the money that they get.
I'm like, wait, all the other service I'm doing isn't enough? Come on now.
Right.
That seriously was a problem for me. Yeah, it's
God.
Never enough. The church,
because they keep taking from everyone, and that's what it seems like it comes down to.
Yes.
They're taking away whatever they have left for any type of freedom to take a break or enjoy their family. They're still getting pulled into it.
When you break it down, it's hard to watch when you leave because it's an abusive relationship.
It sounds like it. That's for sure.
It is. If you've ever been in a relationship where you're not getting reciprocated, you're putting in 50 to 60% and you're only getting met with 20 or 30%, what Shelley says about community is absolutely true. That's the beauty of it. But beyond that, there's all of this stuff that nobody really talks about, and so
they don't. The fact that we're talking about it is pretty huge because and I'm not talking about the Mormons that I surround myself with that are friends that accept me the way I am. Mm-hmm. And that's maybe some of them want to see me come back, to the fold, but that's okay. I've been there. I remember being like that. I would love to see them come over on our side, but everyone's on their own path and their own journey. Yep. But I was going to say, this whole, I didn't even have the words whenever I get invited. This is what's so ironic. I am in the best ward I've ever lived in, and I've lived in some pretty damn good wards, okay? And we know the whole term about ward, Sharon. But I've lived in some congregations that have been pretty fabulous, and there's been a community that's really supportive. But this one I'm in now in this neighborhood, these souls are so giving and caring, and they know my stand. But I couldn't even tell the last bishop that I sat down with, he could be my kid, my son, okay, because he's young enough to be. But when he invited me to, because he acknowledged my light and he acknowledged my kind heart, and I felt really touched. But he also has that too. But when he said, "I wish you'd come to church and just share that," and I couldn't even say, I get triggered because I didn't even know the term at the time. But there is a triggering, and I remember not being true to myself. That's part of feeling the big Shelley, that like the big Bob that comes in. And Bob, by the way, you live from Big Bob, because when you open your mouth and you share from your heart and soul, like it comes across so much wisdom. I'm so grateful you joined tonight.
Me
But I want
Thank you.
too.
Thank you.
I could listen to him all day.
oh, I could out for hours and days. And I'm sure I will be. I'll be picking his brain for years to come. But I remember there was a relative that got married in the temple years ago, probably in like 1999. And I was already stepping out and away from the church. I don't know if I'd taken the LDS or the Mormon Jesus jammies garments off that were worn under the clothes, but and they're put on in the temple the first time you go through as an adult. But I remember like sucking it up and going and sitting through a bishop's interview to ask if I was worthy enough, all the questions to get a temple recommend so I could go to this. And it just felt yucky. But I did it because
If you're good enough.
I got to fit in with this family that it isn't even my family of origin. It was another family that I was a part of, extended family. And so I went, but it just didn't feel right. And I couldn't wait to then be free and then take the garments off, and never put the temple dress or the garments back on again. But then when, on my downline, when a soul that means the world to me went through and got his endowments and then went and got married in the temple, I just couldn't bring myself to do that. I had to be true to myself. And it really caused, there was a ripple effect created from that, because it was perceived that, I didn't love or care enough to do that. And it's so sad. And to this day, that relationship is fractured, but I have hope and I have faith that all will be returned. When Bob
That's
says,
what this is all about too. I believe it too.
With and on the other side and here, we're all angels seen and unseen. We're all surrounded by that.
Yeah. And I do believe that everything is going to end up being okay. I think there's going to be more people coming together when the big truth is told, because they're not going to, what's the word I'm looking for? Bob, help me out here. What's the word I'm looking for? They're not going to have any other options. They're going to have a holy shit balls. This is like
they're going to start
in the world.
They're going to definitely start reaching out to people like us. They're going to say, "Hey, do you know what's going on here? What are your thoughts?" And they're going to go, "Oh, okay." All of a sudden, the some of the stuff that we've been talking about in the past, or the stuff even maybe we're talking about today, they're going to be willing to entertain it, because they're going to be
they have nowhere else to go.
There's going to be, like I said, there's going to be a grieving period, and as soon as they come out of that grieving period, and some people don't respond well, there's going to be violence. There's going to be all kinds of other things happening. And as soon as
like
all
we've
that
been
calms
seeing,
down, as soon as that calms down, then we're on tap. We're ready to go. It's going to be good.
Well, and I would imagine, Bob, you've also seen this happen already with people that like I've had loved ones, friends, and some family, but that come out of it. Like I was friends with them while they're Mormon, even though I haven't been. And then they're like looking into truth. And so I'll talk about one friend who wrote some glowing things about me on the last.
Who couldn't? You're just amazing.
Oh, you're so sweet. You are amazing.
You are.
Thank you. But she was going to Course in Miracles group book reading things while she was going to Mormon church. Okay. But she was picking my brain. She was asking the important questions, that I was being delicate and gentle with giving her my truth, what I know and what I've experienced, what we're talking about tonight. And there came a point where she realized oh my gosh, I'm not meant to be a part of this anymore. And she changed her whole life, and she moved out of state, and she got back together with a old flame. They had both been in marriages that were not working within the church, and because they'd gotten married young, and they really should have married each other, but they wouldn't have had all these experiences
Oh,
and that they were meant to have with the other spouse. But she's
yeah.
living out, and I see these things all the time. So we are making a difference
Yeah.
when we're respectful, honoring, and meet them where they're at.
Yeah. And I love what you just said, because you weren't judging them and you were just sharing your story. Because I feel like when people such as yourself and everyone's awakening stories, whether it's in the church or wherever, when people can share their stories, they don't feel as alone. And that's important, because I think most people these days, they've been feeling alone, and they just are too scared to talk about anything because they're afraid of judgment and labels. And when you, that's why you're here, and I feel it. And it's like everyone else on this journey, where when we stop the people that are bringing us down, where you're a good person and you're like, okay, enough, that's not happening anymore. I think that's the first step for a lot of people, is recognizing that they're important, they matter, and as long as they have a good heart, and then it kind of just starts trickling that way. But I love what you said, is a lot of people like yourselves and other people that are just awakened and have been, is that they allow people to go through it. And we can put things out there, but just say, it's a process.
I look at it this way a little bit, Sharon. It's like spiritual triage. Me, you, Shelley are in the emergency room, and we're just waiting for them to bring in the bodies, because, the reality is that these people are coming in, and they're feeling all those things you're talking about. And
Yeah.
it is a scary place
It's
to
sad.
be.
It's
It is
so
a scary
sad
place
too.
to be. And so we have to be delicate. We have to
Yeah.
share our experiences, not be intrusive, and show that compassion and that love, and most of all patience, because the
Yeah.
reality is that journey is, everybody's individual journey takes their own time. And
Oh
so
yeah, mine's been years and years, and same
yeah.
as you. I mean, it's and the rest of the people out there. I mean, this is a long process. It doesn't happen and you're fixed in, one day or something. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't.
Yeah. So, what's interesting as we're talking, Shelley, what is, I was going to ask you a question. What are a couple of the things? It sounds like you're definitely resonating. This is a pun with Reiki and energy. What are some of the things when you're stepping out that aren't so risky? Because people are dealing, as they're leaving the LDS church, they're dealing with a tremendous amount of cognitive dissonance. It's very, very difficult to even look at anything that is outside, because everything's demonized in the LDS church. Don't look there, because that's of the devil, right? So what are some of the things, and I can talk about some of the things that I didn't feel initially were too intrusive, that I explored, that opened me up to greater learnings and allowed me to take that additional step to get a step further and away? What were some of the things you did, out of curiosity?
Yeah, I love that question.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if where I'm going with this is going to be that clear with what you're looking for, but I want to hear yours as well. But I would say these relationships with these souls, when I say we're all walking each other home, yeah, to be respectful and honoring of where someone's at, and then answer questions when asked. Or, I mean, the thing I get a lot of, and there's a lot in society that, what do they have to be so happy about? How come they're all, and there could be a judgment of, oh, they're just fake. No one's that happy. But I clearly am that happy. Now,
I know you are. I love that about you.
Well, I think that's what brought us together, because you were like, she went through these things in the Mormon church, and she came out of it like just glowing, like, wow.
I didn't see all that stuff was happening in the background, but it took a while, and you're here. That's what matters.
But I have done a lot of work, a lot of soul work, and there is shadow work to do. And I was just talking with a friend that has never been a Mormon, and she's kind of raised in it, sort of, but she saw the light really young and just said, I'm not going to be a part of this. And she was asking, what is this shadow work? And I said, that is where we get to just sit with the pain. we pull up the memory, because the body holds the memories. Okay, so there's emotional, a body, since you brought up Reiki, Rob, there's an emotional body, a mental body, the physical body, and etheric body, and these things have a way of coming in until they get to the physical body, and then there creates a dis-at-ease. Okay, and I've had it full blown. I mean, I was so far away from my soul that I just kept having to have surgeries that were life-saving over and over and over. Now, the universe loved me enough, God loved me enough to give me the time to like do some reflection and some soul searching during those times. And so a lot of people get to have those experiences, and it's beautiful, even though it seems tragic at the time. But I would also suggest that, you know, I got to have an opportunity, and this doesn't have to just be for souls that want to get out of the church programming they've been in, but there's soul retrieval. And I was just invited by some loved ones the other day to go back to the childhood church, which I posted on my Facebook pictures of, where it was a rock church in Farmington, Utah, that has a mural in the chapel of the first primary, because it was organized in that church. And Bob, if you haven't seen it, you might want to see it.
No.
And as a child, I would sit and look at that in the church meetings at that big mural, and I would think, which one of these women that are teachers or in the presidency of the primary, because this was like Relief Society, these are roles that are given to women. Okay, they don't get to hold the priesthood and hold positions of power like the men do.
That's bullshit.
But they can definitely be in charge of the kids and take care of all the kids, because that's what they're doing at home anyway, right? So let's indoctrinate the kids with these women. But I would look at the pictures and I would, which one looks nice? Which one would I want for a teacher? Because I had a rainbow of colors of teachers. But what I realized is it was time to do soul retrieval. And so when I went there, I grounded myself, did some earthing, connected with the trees on the property. And then I went in with these souls that are also enlightened, that wanted to see it, that were here from out of state, and they wanted to share it with their family, their children, because they wanted to show them where their roots come from. So we ran around and saw different family homes that belonged to relatives, you know, like, yeah, this is where great grandma lived. This is where your aunt that passed young lived. And here's where their business was and stuff. And so what I did is I just looked at like the little child that's pure, that still lives within here, the spirit, the soul part, but the child that was told, you know, sit up and be quiet and don't ask questions in class, in primary or in young women's or whatever. Let's take that part back. That part of me is enough, and it was okay to question things, and it was okay to talk too much. I mean, it's working for me now. I talk all the time now. And
that's why we get along so well. We're like,
I was told I had diarrhea of the mouth.
I love it, because that's when people get real and they can express themselves. Yeah.
So there's the soul retrieval. I've gone back to every home I've ever lived in and brought back these fractals. When you talk about, Bob, we're multidimensional beings, which I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to too, but the concept is like mind-bending, all right?
But it really is for people listening that don't understand any of this. So yeah.
Like we're here in a body having a material and separate, you know, experience now. But there are these fractals of our soul that can break off in this incarnation and be left behind, you know, if there's too much trauma. I mean, there was a home I grew up in where I actually hid in the closet to hide from an abuser. And I found myself as an adult doing that all over again with the same person. Like I went to visit another relative, and this other relative came over and I hid in the closet. Now, how sad is that? And now I would never do that. I'm so strong in who I am.
Yeah,
I'm
you are.
Anyone ever again. You know, I just
you did it. I'm so proud of you. But wow.
Oh, is this kind of what you're looking for, Bob? I mean,
yeah, that's you know, exactly right. What bridges the gap into the unknown, because that's the fear, stepping into the unknown, and it's that's where our stories start. Everybody's journey is different, and so I appreciate you sharing that, because you know, we talk about the aspect of how you spent time healing and working on yourself before you took the next step, because that is exactly how you said it very well, how you bring your multi-dimensional self back together into balance because you don't
Got it.
know your other lives. You don't know the generational traumas. You don't, all you can do, and that's why we're here right now, is we're here to heal ourselves. And in so doing, we pull that back into center and balance. And so that's a major victory, Shelley. You need to be patting yourself on the back.
I know. I'm
You know,
so proud
you're
of
downplaying it over
you.
there, but that's
I think everyone
really
should
huge.
that catches this now or, down the road, please applaud
Yeah, that's
her.
enormous,
She's
because
a beautiful soul and you're getting there. Some of you are
yeah,
getting there and some of you are there, and you should be patting yourselves on the
it's
back.
And
it's
a
hard.
constant. Evolution is a constant. This is not like, oh, I've arrived now. There's always something to come up to be healed. There are
Yeah.
feelings that have been shoved down so deep that maybe the subconscious or the unconscious isn't even aware. But on a conscious level, once I do be mindful and I ask what is next, or it'll just come up out of the blue, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Needs to come up,
Yeah,
and then
but
it's like, hey, what
it's
do I do?
interesting. You learn how you learn in leaving the LDS church, you learn that that still small voice is really your voice. But the problem is you're taught that it's a power outside of yourself. The Holy Ghost, the still small voice is giving you inspiration. But the reality is it's you giving yourself inspiration. I call it the great lie, because it's disempowering, right? So
I love how you're explaining this, though. That
yeah,
makes perfect sense when people really think of the big picture.
that would be hard to hear if I'm jumping on this call and I'm just starting my journey. If I heard that, it'd scare the shit out of me, because
Yep.
the reality is I've made a lot of decisions. I'm just speaking to myself as if I'm a visitor here. I've made a lot of decisions in my life based on that still small voice, because that's what we're taught in the LDS religion from an early age, So, circling back around to empowerment, you give all of your power away so that when you're trying to leave the church, it's like you're moving out with no clothes, right? You've left everything behind. You don't know you don't know how to do that. And what Shelley's talking about is getting yourself back and healing those broken parts of yourself. What's interesting, the other thing that I like that you said, Shelley, was the aspect of the different parts of ourself, the etheric body, the spiritual, the energetic body, all of those things. I didn't understand that super well initially, and that's an important thing to understand, because it's absolutely what brings, it's a big contributor in disease, right? Dis-ease. And so as you're going through the healing journey and leaving a religion or a major life decision, this is where disease kicks in, because you're out of balance in all of those areas. That's why I love Reiki. I think Reiki is great. The other thing that I love is sound baths. It's because sound baths are non-intrusive. They're not trying to preach you a religion. They're not saying what you believe is wrong. It's taking energy, and it's taking the natural aspect of your cells and how your cells respond to specific tones and frequencies. And it's something that the Eastern medicine is known for so long, and Western medicine is cast aside and trying to sell us a lot of things that we just don't need, and making us sicker, creating an imbalance and more disease, ironically. But the beautiful what you said, Shelley, because I think what's important is, and as you and I and Sharon step into this spiritual triage, because we're in the war now, we've invited ourselves. So when we start doing triage, I think it's important that we kind of show people or explain to people what some of those bridges are, and not to be specifically not be too hard on yourself, because I remember trying to do it and the pain is so immense. You just want to run back to stop the pain.
That's for all people that go through
people.
life the deep. Yeah, that's that trigger that they're like, okay, I just can't
fight or
do
flight,
this with
right? Fight or
yeah.
flight. One of the I'm listening to an audiobook right now. It's an amazing audiobook. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. I don't know if you guys have heard of that book. Super amazing, because this doctor, I've got it right here. The author's name is Bessel van der Kolk. But it's really high up there on the Audible.
And what's it called again?
The Body Keeps the Score. Very, very enlightening. So if you get a chance, if anybody on this, or even you two, can listen to that, very, very enlightening. Some parts are very difficult. It brings up pain. Even though you think you're healed, it brings up pain because your body keeps the score of every little thing you experience. And but it's been very enlightening to me because it's helped me understand that dynamic that Shelley talks about a little bit in regards to where that pain is, how I've stored it, how it creates disease. It's a really good book, well done. However, getting yourself into balance is half the battle. Being kind to yourself is the other half on the way out. So the hard part of LDS Incorporated is that your belief system becomes perfection. And if you're not doing everything you can to be perfect, you don't get into the highest kingdom. You're going to be stuck in one of these other kingdoms.
That blows my mind.
And so the departure by nature, see, this is all programming. It's not too different from MK Ultra and all these other things you read about, because the problem is that they put you in a state of mind where, well, if I'm not being perfect, then I'm not going to make it. So I've got to force everyone around me to be perfect as well, because I want to be with them. And
that sounds just like the average everyday person as well, not just within the church, that, you're trying to reach some certain, you're hiding your insecurities and you're trying to promote that you're someone, I don't know, it triggers big time for everyone, I think. And then that they try to take it out on other people around them one way or another.
What I've noticed is, and listen, I fell into this trap as well. And it's an epidemic that nobody talks about. It creates a psychotic break in your brain, because what happens is you start to lie. You start to lie to yourself. You start to lie to church authorities. You start to lie to bishops so you can get into the temple, because you know what, maybe you can't answer, and Shelley knows what I'm talking about. You can't always answer all of those questions, but you don't want to be separated from your family who's going through, or your kid who's getting married, or your family member, and they ostracize you if you don't answer them correctly. And then you don't want to be ostracized from your family.
So you're trapped. Either way, you're trapped.
You're trapped. You're trapped. I said,
Guilty and sinful. You're not taking the sacrament, and then people are looking down the
people are looking at you and judging you.
Oh,
wow.
Did they sleep with somebody? Did they steal something?
Wow.
And you've got a tremendous amount. You've got a tremendous amount.
So the pressure is on all of you. Everyone's looking at each other. The pressure's on each and every one of you to.
Well, it's even worse than that, because you've got clergy members that people are going to who are untrained. These guys are landscapers during the week and coming in and telling you how to conduct your life. Wow. They have no formal training. And so
how do they get in that? So how do they get in?
It's all service based, right? And it's done based on inspiration from God. So the problem is that I'm sitting there on Sunday. I'm just using this hypothetically, but I'm sitting there on Sunday. I'm feeling sorrow because I haven't been perfect during the week. And I'm talking to landscaper Bob, who's like scared to death, and he's trying to do the right thing. And he's flipping through his book going, it looks like you need to get 40 lashes. I'm just joking, but the reality is he's just following the book, and so what happens is there's this, all of a sudden there's this break, and you're like, wait, I don't want to be separated from family. I don't want to be separated from community. I don't want to be ostracized in the community that's important to me, because on Sunday they're going to see me not taking the sacrament. So I'm going to lie. And what happens is then you start to reason with yourself, and you start to say, I'm not really lying. I'm just kind of working around. I'm going to go to the temple. I'll get caught up on tithing later. It's not like I was really lying. Because they ask you if you're paying a full tithe, and things like that. And so you're like, so
everyone's trapped.
You're trapped. So it creates a psychotic break, and you start living separate lives within yourself, and you separate from your core, and then everything starts to fall apart. That's where the disease comes in that Shelley's talking about. I fell into the trap. There's hypocrites running all over the place because they're justifying their behaviors, and it leads to other poor behaviors. I mean, in the time that I've lived in Utah, I have seen so many people justify poor behaviors in business because they've become good liars. They've become good hypocrites, so it becomes very, very difficult to trust people. Listen, I don't want to make it sound like it's all that way. There's plenty of good people.
Oh
You know
I
what I
know
mean?
that, but
But
we've said that. People
you have to
understand
know
this.
that the other side exists too. And there's a lot of people in pain for these reasons,
Gosh, that's
separating family.
awful.
Like Shelley,
That's
I didn't go to my oldest daughter's wedding. I went to her wedding. They wouldn't allow me into the temple because I said, I am no longer going to lie to the bishop. I'm going to be true to myself. And it
oh,
began the end of my relationship with my oldest daughter.
I am so sorry. That's
Yeah, these
just
things happen though, but they don't care, you know?
that, but people need to understand on in the, on the outside world, that just does not sound right. It
Yeah.
doesn't sound right. I mean, come on, let's all be honest that for you not to be able to go to your own daughter's wedding and so forth, I mean, that's where they're putting themselves on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of the people that are very, very hardcore and to everyone they're gonna hit that rock bottom so quick and so fast. They're not gonna know how to deal with this. And
I've
that's
been
why
that
there are people like you.
Mm-hmm.
Darren. I was that person. Talk, 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 gossip, gossip, judge, judge.
Yeah. That's
And you're
exactly what
not
happens.
anymore. And that's why we're friends. Because if you were, I'd be like, bye. 'Cause those people, nope. I don't give those people the time of day. I cut cords. I'm like, bye.
Got to set the boundaries.
Oh, I do. I do. I do. And I loved what you both said and Bob, because I feel the same way in my own, even though I'm not part of the church, I feel like for myself and so many others, we've had our deep wounds inside that other people don't see. And everyone's a good, they put the front like I got my shit together, and a lot of people do, they can do it. I did, but at the same time, it's like you've got things that you're dealing with that no one knows except you in your own mind, whether good, bad, but a lot of it is just really, honestly, I think in general for most people is just being judged by everyone else, thinking they know that they, like all the Mormons and so forth, like people know their story. They don't know their story. They're just talking out their assholes, that's not okay.
Yeah, that's why I like to say it's an abusive relationship. For those of us who have been in abusive relationships, you get the abuse, the abuse, the abuse, and then they throw down a little morsel of love, and you're just like, no, 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 no. I love it, right?
Yeah.
And then you come back for more, and then
You're
bam,
so
bam,
funny.
bam, bam, and then no, 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 no. You get that little morsel.
I think
Where
that's
does the
everyone.
judgment start? The judgment starts within. If I could judge myself harsher than anyone else could judge me, and yet I'm mad at them for judging me. Come on. I mean,
Yeah.
let's do some self.
It's just the endless
Yeah.
hamster wheel. It's like, come on, people, shit or get off the pot and start, going within. And that's why everything, I constantly say this, but all these words that you guys are using, they're used in every type of book, song, music, entertainment, media, and everyone talks it, but they don't walk it.
Mm.
They
Faux
don't.
show, faux show.
Well, listen, guys, I would love to ask you if you have any words of encouragement, ladies first, Shelley, for people that are leaving the church, because I think right here, right now, we're in these biblical times that stuff is really going to start hitting the fan, if we can imagine that. What would be your words of
Well, the fact
encouragement?
that Bob actually did say, recommended this book, The Body Keeps the Score. There's the thing I was looking for when I said, hey, if any of you have tools out there, that are affordable for people that are in this dark night of the soul so that they can process through, so that they can work through. What a beautiful thing. There's an option there. I would say that once again, like the last YouTube I did with you, I'm going to put out there, I have a former brother-in-law. I'll still call him my brother because he's still my brother. But
That's nice. I like to hear that.
my sister divorced him because he was exiting the church.
I think that people should be allowed to stay in touch with exes and non-exes, and if you hit it off, that's the way it should be. People shouldn't take sides. It's not their business. It's between the two people.
So in the Salt Lake City area, he created what's called a religious transition group. And it's called RTG for short, Religious Transition Support Group. And he created it in 2003 so that there would be community support for people to have a safe place to just talk about their questions and their feelings and their and just feel empowered and supported, whether they leave the Mormon church or not. But like
Mhm.
Bob said, like there are family members that can totally be ripped away
Yeah.
from one's life, and friends. I mean, let's look at that bishop that you talked about that came out first part of
Jones,
January. Yes.
Bishop
And
Jones, I liked him.
yeah, and how many people how many souls did he serve in the years he was their bishop? And how many people came to his side and was there to support him? Come on,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm.
And so this is a real thing. And so this this group meets at the South Valley Unitarian Universal Society. It's a church building that they use, and this is a type of church that is not a Bible bashing, God fearing, promoting. This is a place where souls go to just meditate and worship their source and their creator, whoever their higher power
I
is in
love
their
that.
own. And so once a month they get together. And so if you go to the South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society, and there's a categories at the top of the page, there's one called Getting Involved. And that's when you'll see the RTG Religious Transition Group. And I would encourage anyone that's looking for community to check this out. You know, I
It's a nice
asked them,
place to
hey,
start.
if it goes viral, are you ready to have your, you know, the building just explode with tons of souls? Because
I think that'd be great.
he was open. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so you know, check that out. I don't go every month. I've been before. It's just because of the distance from where I live. But I'd go in a heartbeat anytime because I love these souls that are there.
Can I ask you on that topic, if people don't go physically, do you know of people that do constant Zooms like this where they can just, time is money, money is time, and travel and so forth. Some people, they'll use that as an excuse or what have you, because you got,
Really good idea. And there could probably be a group started that way as well.
I
Because I
think we
didn't
should do
say
that.
what
I
happened
think
during
we should do
the
that.
pandemic. Did you do Zoom? You know, when people were on lockdown? I mean, how did they handle that? But yeah, and
I
there's
think we
social.
should do it. Let's do it. Let's get these people on. And so they know right away when they join, they're not going to be judged. And maybe
Yeah,
to always leave it on a positive note, something that they learned about themselves that they couldn't talk about with other people while they were in the church or family and so forth. I think that is a good, safe place. And honestly, also, I've mentioned this to both of you and others on the interviews is, these people, they're God warriors. I mean, they're up for a big task and they know it. And the more we get going, the more everything just changes for the better instead of going the opposite.
There's something about northern Utah. There's something about Utah. Something's happening here.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yep. I think a lot of people within the church and people that have left, I think everyone's feeling this stuff. So what about you, Bob? What would be your words of encouragement for people that are catching this now or down the road? Because I don't like
Yeah.
the whole like people being angry, leaving angry kind of a thing. It doesn't.
Yeah. It's there's going to be anger. Okay, you can't deny
Oh
it.
yeah. Oh yeah.
You
I
go
don't
through
mean it like that.
you go through you go through the stages of grief, and the one thing I can tell is first and foremost, you go through this phase of cognitive dissonance, and what that is just really writing off everything in regards to and ignoring the clues that are in front of you, that is the reality. Internally that there's something wrong. It doesn't resonate for you.
Yeah.
And you keep going along. The reality is that eventually you will meet a point, and the problem is we're out of time. Eventually, listen, the simulation is ending. We're all running out of time here. It's going to meet you if you don't meet it. And so the reality is that eventually you're going to have to face that. You're going to have to make the decision, because you can't live in both worlds indefinitely. You're eventually going to have to, and the pain you're feeling inside is because of that. You're living between worlds right now. Your core feels this way. That if you're going to go and address that, there's going to be a tremendous amount of loss and grief. You're too scared to address it. And so if you're in that phase, you have two choices to make. You can stay there and just continue to deal with it, but eventually it will
what a waste of
manifest.
life. What a
Yeah,
waste of your
that's
life.
that's exactly what's going to happen. Shelley mentioned it earlier. It will lead to disease in one way, shape, or form in your energetic body. in your etheric body, because you're not being true to your authentic self. And so you can feel it. And that's why you're here. That's why this message has even come to your attention, because you know that there's something off. And right now it's the dirty, evil secret maybe in your home. But the reality is it'll eventually keep coming back around, because your big self is leading you to that intended outcome. So the first thing that I would say is that at some point, you're going to have to face your dark self. You're going to have
Everyone
to face
does. Yeah.
the dark night of the soul. It is miserable. It is horrible. It is hell on earth. It is terrible. Once you get through that, and everybody does it in their own way. I like how Shelley brought up shadow work. Do some quick looks on Amazon. There's plenty of journals that help with that, with shadow work, and really exploring who you are. Because what's happened with religion is you don't even know who you are anymore.
People don't when they sit there. They just keep praying and praying, but they don't.
You are completely, you're devoid of who your core self is now. You're completely lost. And when you start to exit, you're going to feel like you are in a void. And so the best way to do that is to find yourself, is number one, love yourself, trust yourself, forgive yourself, take accountability, like Shelley said, so articulately, and then just take it one step at a time. Don't be hard on yourself. And
I think that's the key. A lot of people
Yeah.
are just too hard. They think it's going to happen overnight. Just
Yeah.
change a few things. It doesn't work that
It doesn't.
way for anyone.
The journey,
Yeah.
it's like, I remember, I'm like, how long is this going to fucking be? Because I'm dying. I am dying right now. And then all of a sudden, pop, here I am, a whole new me. And I know who I am. And all of a sudden, this conduit opens up to your greater being. And you're like, hey, listen, that's not, you start joking about it. It's so ridiculous, right? You're saying, that wasn't the Holy Ghost. That was me the whole time. And you're like, hey, I still have that voice. It wasn't exclusive to LDS Incorporated. It was really me. And you know what? At the end of the day, once you pop through that horrible space, it gets beautiful. And so I would just encourage
hang in tight, everyone.
Yeah, hang in there.
It's worth it.
Don't pitch yourself, or here's another problem with LDS Incorporated. Maybe all religions, don't compare yourself to anybody else, for God's sake. It's like, just travel your own journey and respect yourself, set the boundaries, and get ready for some pain. It's going to be there.
Yeah.
Robert, when you talked about it's hell to go through, it's interesting. We're taught that we have to die in order to experience heaven or hell, right? And we all strive to avoid hell and try to go to heaven, right? But heaven and hell are right.
Yeah.
And so what we feel and go through and walking through the valley of the shadow of death, we can come out the other side and experience heaven. Like, heaven can be right here. We can share it. We can live it. It's a choice. It's when I talk about freeing yourself to do that. And it isn't.
I love what you just said. Well, there'll be people like us for all these others that are out there, and embrace them wherever they're at, and just listen, because we've all been there one way or another, whether it's the church or real life or family or friends, work, whatever anyone's situation. And the more people that are like us to help others, I mean, this is how it starts. This is how it's all going to start changing. And I'm honored to be here with you, all of you.
Sharon, if I could say one last thing before going to, it was
just absolutely
I was impressed with. The greatest pain for somebody trying to exit the religion, I would feel, not just mine, but others that I've experienced, is you are heavily programmed for perfection, right? And so the greatest liberation on the path to my sovereignty was understanding and believing that I'm already perfect the way I am. We're all perfect the way we are. This is an illusion. And when you wake up
labels,
exactly, all of a sudden that strife because that's really the pain. The pain is that you're separating, you feel like you're separating, and you're striving for perfection. And once you let go of those and you realize that I'm already perfect the way I am, because we truly are, then you just shoot to the moon in regards to your spiritual growth. And you
love how you put that.
So
that's
anyway,
awesome.
I felt impressed to share that.
Thank you so much, you guys. I know, whether, like I said, people are tuning in right now or down the road or very soon. I'm so glad that they have you as really great mentors and standing up to all of this. I mean, the church, society, politics, just everything. It's all intertwined. And I think people are realizing that, like, it's like the whole Kevin Bacon thing, you know? You know, what's that old saying? I always think of that because they filmed Footloose out here.
Everybody 7 degrees of separation away from Kevin Bacon. Is that what
Yeah.
it is?
But when you look at it, I mean, everything really is connected in life. We just,
And that show shows how religions can be so oppressive,
Oh, for sure. For sure.
controlling.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
that,
I,
you know,
yeah.
yeah.
I think that just people being kind to one another and going within and, you know, no more labels, no more talking about, you know, who's better than who and all that. That it gets nowhere. Absolutely
Well,
nowhere.
Sharon, that's a perfect way to end the show then. Shouldn't that just be our vision for the new earth?
Yes. We're doing it. We're all doing
Love it.
it.
I mean, I'm not
so
trying to end the
excited.
show, but I felt like we brought it around full circle. So
Yes, I think this was perfect.
Yeah.
I just love it. And you know, I will, you know, if anyone reaches out to me and so forth on the down low, I'll reach out to you and see where you stand on, you know. But I think we definitely need to get a Zoom going and start inviting people that have left, because I think you both are such great leaders. And I think there's so many other people out there that can identify with the same feelings outside of the church that are your everyday people. I mean,
I think it's
why
a great
not?
idea. It allows people to stay anonymous in the journey because there's a lot of fear initially.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. We're going to
And
go for it. Another
if you
thing, we're going to chalk.
because I'm not about having any followers. My
Yeah.
mentor
Amen. Yeah. Who needs
me to
that?
I can't stand that stuff. I can't
They're-
stand it.
yeah. So come one, come all, be ready to ignite something huge within yourself and worldwide, and find the leader that lives within, because you are powerful. Everyone here is powerful. If they only knew how to light.
I
Yeah.
know.
Thank you. We all owe it to ourselves, right? Isn't that a great story to tell at the end when we're all done with this?
Yeah. Let's do it. I love it.
Awesome.
So listen, let's close it off. Again, guys, thank you so much. You know, this helped me get out of my comfort zone as well, and just be true to myself in sharing what I've been dealing with for over, you know, how many years, and same with everyone else. And I want to encourage more people to start interviewing other people on their awakening journey, because I can guarantee, I'd put money on it, that people are going to realize that more and more people are on these journeys and the struggles and so forth, and they are awakening, and, you know, they might actually learn something from people such as yourselves instead of them being always stuck. And with that being said, you know, I would love to encourage everyone. You can find me on YouTube, The Sharon the Red Baron Show, and we're going to be doing more things and more Zooms and so forth. But also, I would love to encourage you to join and take a look at the video last night that I did with Ishmael Perez on my visions of, you know, how people can make this world work. And it's called the Community Thinking Tank. It's a private group, and it's very simple, straight to the point. And it's a vision of people utilizing the old school way of, you know, creating poster board signs and hanging them in your community of positive messages, because people are going to really need those coming up here shortly. And it's a way for also everyone to come together in their own communities and start thinking for themselves instead of being told what to do, because so many people have amazing ideas that have been suppressed, or they just have a natural gift of coming up with things. We all have a gift. So when we come together, we can change things in every city, in every state throughout the world. And the last thing I want to leave on that is just imagine a world where people can actually get back and visit each other and not be hiding behind phones and computers and so forth and being in this lockdown and so forth. But imagine seeing these signs everywhere and flipping the algorithms on Facebook and all this baloney, you know what I mean? Where you get a message out and literally it trickles throughout the whole world when you post these signs, and you didn't have to pay for any advertising on social media, right? And also, they can't silence that. That's our freedom of speech. So I want people to think about that. And especially for the youths can, you know, the teenagers and so forth, they can create their own communities thinking tanks. This is the way things should be. This is the way our brains were meant to be used to help each other and humankind and stop the fighting. If you want to keep fighting, I mean, I'm done with people like that. If they go psycho on my post because I post something and they're like, and they're like psycho, I'm like, bye, block. Because that's not my mission anymore. I'm not here to pull anyone through anything. I don't think any of you are doing it anymore. It's like we're focusing on the people that are open to being open. And those are my kind of people. So I want to thank you for that. And thank you, you guys. I love you both so much. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again. You have a great night.
See ya.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Bye.